Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Honorable, my lecturer, Memlani Rohlia MPD, and all my friends. We are from Group 2. My name is Elsa Safitri, and my friends Khofifah Indah Sari, Noka Romadhona, and Rizky nopansyah. In this video, we will explain the material about the constituent of language teaching method, approach, design, and procedure. For the first explanation is by me. The first materials is approach. What is approach? Anthony, 1963, defined approach as a set of correlative assumptions dealing with the nature of language and the nature of language teaching and learning. Although Richard and Rogers, 1982, approach defined those assumptions, beliefs, and theories about the nature of language and the nature of language learning, which operate as axiomatic constructs, a reference point, and provide at the theoretical foundation for what language teachers ultimately do with learners in classroom. So, an approach is a theory about language learning or even a philosophy of how people learn in general. Why we have to know about approach? People use the term approach to refer the theories about the nature of language and the language learning, which are the source or the way things are done in the classroom and which provide the reason for doing them. Because an approach describes how language is used and how its constituent parts interlock. It offers a model of language competence. The next is linguistic and psycholinguistic aspect of approach. Based on the definition, approach is a theory about language and language learning. The first is theory of language. There are at least three different theoretical views of language and the nature of language. Proficiency inform current approach and methods in language teaching. Theory of language consists of structural view, functional view, and interactional view. Structural view: the view that language is a system of coding structurally related elements for coding of meaning. The target of structural view as language learning is seen to be the mastery of elements of this system which are generally defined in terms phonological units. Example is like phonemes. The second is functional view. The view language is a vehicle for the expression of functional meaning that emphasize the semantic and communicative dimension. And the third is interactional view. The language as a wedge for the realization of interpersonal relation for the performance and social. And interactional view is focused on the patterns of moves, acts, negotiation, and interaction found in the conversation. The next is theory language learning. Consists first is process-oriented theories, condition-oriented theories, and cognitive code proponents. The first is process-oriented theories. Process-oriented theories build on learning process such as habit formation, induction, and inferencing. And the second, condition-oriented theories, is emphasize the nature of the human and physical context in which language learning takes place. And the third is cognitive code proponents have attempted a link a more sophisticated model of structuralism. I think enough for my explanation. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Sari. I will continue to explain about the constituent of language teaching method. Now I will explain about design. What is design and what we have to design. In order for an approach to lead a method, it is necessary to develop a design for an instructional system. Design is the level of method analysis in which we consider what the objectives of a method are, how language content is selected and organized within the method, that is the syllabus model, the types of learning tasks and teaching activities, the roles of learners, teachers, and instructional materials. Okay, now I will explain about the objectives of the method. There are 4 objectives of the method. The first one is to achieve functional proficiency in listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The second one is to recognize culture-specific perspectives and values in language behavior. And the third is to decode, analyze, and interpret authentic texts of different genres. The last one is to produce organized, coherent discourse in oral and written modes. Okay, the next is a syllabus model. Syllabus model, it means that the criteria for the selection and organization of linguistic and subject matter content. Decision about the choice of language content relate both to subject matter, it means that what to talk about, and linguistic matter, how to talk about it. As a teacher, we have to know a syllabus should include the following: basic course information, course by number, section, title, semester, meeting times, days, place, and format, and instructional information such as name, title, rank, office location, office phone number, and email. The last one is description of the course content, of course. And how about the criteria for the content selection? At least there are 8 criteria. As a teacher, we have to know. The first one is validity. It means that according to national standard or curriculum, and balance between concept and values or approach ensure a balances with lesson content and interest. It means that the teacher consider the interest of the learners about the background, culture, and stage. Feasibility, it should consider the real situation of the school, the government, and the society in general. And number 5 is significance. What we teach should respond to the needs and interests of the learners. And self-sufficiency, it means that content fully covers the essential. Learnability, it means that the subject matter or content must be within the scheme of the learners. It should be within their experience. Utility is the usefulness of the content or subject matter. Okay, the next is types of learning and teaching activities. There are kinds of tasks and practice to be employed in the classroom and in materials, but different types of activity depends on. The first is levels of approach. Different methods at the level approach have an effect on the choice of learning and teaching activities in the classroom, such as audiolingualism. Audiolingualism uses dialogue and pattern practice extensively. And for communicative language teaching, looks at language use in context, and the silent way involves the use of spatial, chart, and color approach. In here we know the different kind of tasks or practice for the learners. And the next is different philosophies at the level of approach. Maybe different philosophies reflected both in the use of different kinds of activities and in different uses for particular activities. For example, use of interactive games. Interactive games are often used in audiolingual courses for motivation, while in communicative language teaching, the same games may be used to introduce or provide practice for particular types of interactive exchange. The last one is different arrangement and groupings of learners. Different in activity types and method may be involve different arrangement and groupings of learners. Method that stress oral will require different groups of learners in the classroom from a method that uses problem solving. Okay, that's all from me. The next explanation will be presented by Noka Romadhona.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Noka Romadhona and I will continue Khofifah indah sari explanation that's about design, and I will explain to you about learner roles, teacher roles, and also the instructional material. Okay, the first one I will explain to you about learner roles. The design of an instructional system will be considered by how learners are regarded, and a method reflects explicit or implicit response to the learning process. And then the Johnsons and Paulstone spell out that learner roles in an individual approach to language learning in the following terms. The first one, the learner types of learning task set for learner. It shows that learners plan their own learning program, and this ultimately assume responsibility for what they do in the classroom. And then, the degree of control learners have over the contents of learning. It is learners monitor and evaluate their own progress. And then, pattern of learner groupings that are recommended or implied. The learners are a member of a group and learn by interacting with others. And then the fourth is degree to which learner influence the learnings of others. It's the learner tutor other learners. And then the view of the learner as a processor, performer, initiator, and problem solver. The learner learn from the teacher, from other students, and from other teaching source. Okay, next, there is a teacher roles. The teacher roles in instructional system are closely linked to the teacher status and function. The teacher roles are similarity related ultimately both to assumptions about the language and the language learning at the level of approach. And the teacher roles in a method are related to the following issues. The first one, the types of functions teacher fulfill. It is the type of functions teachers are expected to fulfill, whether that's of a practice director, counselor, or model. For example, in the degree of teacher influence over learning. It is the degree of a control the teacher has over how learning takes place, and then degree to which the teacher determines the content of learning. The degree to which the teacher is responsible for determining the content of what is taught, and then the types of interaction between teachers and learners. The instructional pattern that develop between teachers and learners, and the method typically depend on the critically teacher roles and their realization. Okay, next, the method. In the classical audiolingual method, The teacher is regarded as the primary source of language and the language learning. But less the teacher-directed learning may still demand very specific and sometimes even more demanding roles for the teacher. And then the silent way, the role of the teachers in the silent way depends often through training and the methodological initiation. Only teachers who are taught sure of their roles and the commit learner roles will risk the departure from the security of the traditional textbook or oriented teaching. And the individualist approach, for some method, the role of the teacher has been specified in detail. Individualism approach to learning define roles for the teacher that create specific pattern of interactions between teachers and learners in classroom. And then the counseling learners see the teacher role as that of psychological counselor. That effectiveness of the teacher roles being a measure of counseling skill and attribute warm, sensitive, and acceptance. Okay, next there is a role of instructional material. The role of instructional material within a method or instructional system will reflect decisions concerning the primary. The first one, the primary functions of material. It is the goals of the material. For example, to present the content, to practice content, to facilitate the communication between learners, or to enable learners to practice content with the teacher's help. And also, the second, the per material text example from the textbook or audiolingual. It is show the form of the materials. It is from the textbook, audiovisual, computer, software, and others. Okay, next, the relations of material to other input. It is the relations of material to other source of input. For example, whether they serve as the major source of input or only as a minor component. And then the assumption made about teachers and learners. It is show the abilities of teachers. For example, in their competence in the language or degree of training and experience. Okay, I think that's all for me. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Rizky nopansyah and I will continue my brain explanation. I will tell you about procedure. Procedure have a three dimension to a method at the level of procedure. The use of teaching activities have a drill, dialogue, information gap activities. To present new language and to clarify and demonstrate formal, communicative, or other aspect of the target language. And to the ways in which particular teaching activities are used for practicing language. And last, the procedure and technique used in giving feedback to learners, connecting the form or content of their utterance of sentences. And classroom technique ways, practice and behavior observed when the method is used. Resource in terms of time, space, and uniqueness used by the teacher. International pattern observed in lesson. And the last, tactic and strategy used by teacher and learner when the method is being used. Okay, I think enough and thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.